Welcome to The Business of Family, the podcast where we explore the stories, challenges, and opportunities of family businesses. I'm your host, Tammy, and I'm a family business survivor and also a family business advisor. In this show, we will be talking with family business leaders and experts to bring you insights and inspiration so you too can survive your family business journey. Whether you're a founder, a successor, a professional, or just curious about family businesses, this podcast is for you. So today I'm very excited to have my friend Jandy John in here. Jandy is with Concentra Trust and has over 20 years in the trust and administration field, working with high net worth families and ultra high net worth families. And today we're going to talk about trusts demystified and the families who use them. So thank you for joining us today.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
I'm very excited because, I think trust sometimes is a strange word or a scary word, or, what is it? So maybe we can start and say, what exactly is a trust?
Oh, that's a good question. Trust, it means, okay, let's step back a little bit about that word. So the demystified trust. A trust is a document that's set up in your lifetime or could be upon death that governs your assets, whether your assets when you're alive or when you pass away, to say, how do I continue to manage these assets, whether I'm alive or when I pass away, and keep it completely at arm's length from my other personal assets. So basically, it's putting aside money with a governing document to ensure that it manages the way you want it to manage.
Sounds very complicated. So what are some reasons then that families would look at trusts?
There's several reasons a family can look at trusts. Let's start within your lifetime. If you manage a business or you have assets that you don't need in your hands right away, you can put those assets in trust. And what that does is it's avoid the cost of probate. It also helps to keep your assets private, and it's a protectionism for yourself also. Once you pass away and you want to set up a trust, that's called a testamentary trust under your will. Again, it's if you have a spouse, you want to make sure that they have assets throughout their lifetime. If you have a child that we call it spendthrift, or a child with a disability that you want a longevity of the money going forward, then you can set that trust up under your will as a testamentary trust.
Mm-hmm. And so you talked about privacy. So tell me a little bit about what privacy means for setting up a trust.
What that means to me is, especially if you want to look at someone with ultra high net worth or high net worth, they run a business and they have assets that are like private shares in a corporation, and they want a continuation of that after death. So when these shares are in a trust, it's completely private. No one can have access to it. Rather, if it's not in a trust and if someone passes away, those assets become open because they have to be reported on the court system so that people know what assets are there and how they're governed. So the trust provides privacy for the family and for the shareholders and everyone else who has those shares. It provides privacy for everyone, and only the person who wrote the trust document and the person who established the trust and the beneficiaries knows what's that trust about.
And what is a beneficiary?
A beneficiary is just someone who benefits under the terms of a trust. For instance, if my husband established a trust, or I have a business and I have corporate shares, I can establish the trust as the settler. The settler settles the trust, and I could name myself as a beneficiary to receive the benefit of the trust while I'm alive. So I become a beneficiary of the trust to receive the benefits of the trust.
And what would some of the benefits of a trust be?
For me as a beneficiary, it can be monthly income. It can be, I can take capital for certain things. If I want to buy a house, if I want to invest in foreign properties, then I could take money from capital to invest in those, and those would be the benefits of a trust. It's based on purely what is a beneficiary. But for me, if a settler settling a trust, my benefits can be that I am income splitting, therefore my income is no longer earned in my hands, it's in the trust. And if I have enough wealth that I can say that income splitting, and I have children, and then my children are not income earners, I can split those income outs individual to my children also. So I can definitely do some income splitting here also.
Mm-hmm. So you can set up a trust for a number of reasons: protection for privacy, yes, for income splitting, yes, for a little bit of longevity. And speaking about that, there are different types of trusts and different lengths of trusts.
Yes.
So what is the most common type of trust?
Well, truly speaking, the most common type of trust I see is the testamentary trust. And that's the trust under the will where it continues for a certain amount of time, especially for minor children, where it continues until a minor child becomes of age to use the trust. Another common type of trust that I see is the family trust. And I see those trusts in terms of when there is businesses in place. Small proprietors become big business owners. And in doing so, they can protect and safeguard their rights within that business and their children's rights, and it continues after death. So basically, there are two types of trust to be established. There's a IVT, individual's trust. That's a living trust in the lifetime as an individual, and a testamentary trust that is after death established under will.
So when should a family start thinking about a trust? Like if I'm not ultra high net worth or high net worth, like are there benefits to me to setting up a trust now?
The biggest benefit to establishing the trust now is to see where is this. I'll speak specifically of business owners. If there's a business owner and you see there is growth within your business, think about setting up the trust so the growth can be within the trust, and you can talk to your accountant to see how income splitting can happen within that trust. There's never a wrong time or a right time to establish a trust, but I would say there's a wrong time. The wrong time is
when it's too late.
Yes, but it's way too late to get to do this and reap the benefits for it. The right time is continue to speak to your accountants and say, hey, is there any benefits to me now setting up this trust so I can do some income splitting or realize some gains someplace? Do I have any gains to realize to put this money in trust while I'm alive? Or should I wait until I pass away? There are other various degrees too. Like when you think about complex family dynamics, you think about second spouses, you think about tension within the family. You think
there's never tension within a family.
I can tell you stories that will curl my hair more than it's already curled. And then it comes back to that privacy. It just really puts things into perspective that I'll use an example for myself. If I have my daughter who marries someone and my son-in-law wants to get the hands on my family business, putting that in trust so therefore that's completely protected. My daughter can benefit from it, is completely protected from her marital assets, and to develop that within my lifetime to make sure after I pass away there's a continuation. And I can name successor trustees to come onto the trust and making it very concrete so that there's that protectionism there and there's the privacy there and the continuation of that legacy that was developed in my lifetime.
Now, I've had clients say to me, "Well, I don't really care. I'm gone, so I don't care about this."
Yeah, that's one of the biggest mistakes I ever heard said in a lifetime. Because when you don't care about it now, when you're no longer alive to be the healer within the family, and we all know what happens with money and grief and everything else. If you don't establish it and to set the concrete out for your family, I like to tell families, have family meetings, talk about intentions and why things are being done. And if it doesn't, it will cost you money to establish your trust and to make sure everything is on board. But it will cost you money in the end if it's not well planned out. Because succession planning should happen within your lifetime to make sure that continuation happens when you pass away.
Now, we talk about setting up trusts and moving assets in. So you lose control of that asset, correct?
You lose control of the assets as an individual. But as a settler, I can also be trustee who manages the trust. So you don't really lose control. You want to lose control as an individual within your hands individually. But as a trustee, I still have control of those assets because as a trustee, the trust document will dictate how I should act as a trustee. And I am also the settler, so I can draft it in a way to make me as trustee manage it how in accordance and how it should be managed in my eyes as a settler.
And so how many trustees? Can I just be the only trustee to control it, or can I have multiple trustees? Or there's Concentra Trust who does trustees, so yes. Trust companies. So how do you determine who can be a trustee?
For settlers, when settlers come on as trustee, there should always be an alternate and a plan. because no individual lives forever. That's the only thing that's guaranteed in life is you're going to pass away. So if there's a family member that is within your business and they know what's happening, a family member is a contingent or a co-trustee. For me, the rule of thumb is no one person should always have complete control because sometimes it's skewed. Sometimes it gets skewed. So having two co-trustees on there and ensuring there's an alternate or allowing the trustees to name another trustee should something happen, should somebody become incompetent, or should somebody pass away before the duties of a trustee end. Allowing the document to read that if this trustee is no longer able to act, then there's certain specifics where a trustee can be appointed to continue under the role.
Now, if you talked earlier about, the purpose for setting some trusts up are for, children who are maybe disabled or a spousal trust. So tell me a little bit about what a spousal trust does as opposed to a general trust.
Okay. So the spousal trust is the spouse has the complete benefit of the trust. So the complete benefit being they can take from income or from capital within their lifetime. So that's the full essence of a spousal trust. And only after that spouse passes away, that trust becomes distributable to children or to another family member. But within the lifetime of a spouse, they have full benefit of the assets of that trust.
Now, I think that's a fairly popular model when you have second marriages.
Yes.
And the assets or the children are not the second spouse's children. So it's a way to protect the children. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's protecting the legacy also because the first spouse may have built a legacy with a spouse who marries the second time around. And if that second spouse has children of their own also, there's a lot of claim and everything that can be made in the States. We know this. But again, the privacy and the protectionism of that trust protects the family members from the first marriage to ensure that their benefits continue.
And also creditor protection.
Creditor protection is very important also. We know someone can declare bankruptcy, and if the funds are out. I'll give you a story. We had a trust, not recently, because I've been doing this for many years, and the spouse remarried, and the spouse also had other children, had a lot of debts and bankruptcy and everything else. And they, the credit card company came to the trust for payments of these debts, and it's like, no, you cannot, because this trust is not the individuals in their hands, so therefore it's protected against creditors coming to get their credit cards that was racked up over 200,000 in Amex cards, right? So Amex wanted their money, but unfortunately the trust was protected and they were not able to get those funds out.
Now what they'd be able to do is to go after the income once it was received by the spouse, correct?
Yes.
So it protects the lump sum.
Yes.
And that would also protect children from a divorce, would it not, if they're beneficiaries of the trust?
That's the correct. Children are protected. Again, when you draft these trust documents, consult with a lawyer because they have the expertise of the language. Because I've seen some documents where the language was not quite specific enough, where it can be challenged. So have make sure it's reviewed by a lawyer. Make sure a lawyer drafts that document.
A trust lawyer. Trust and estate lawyer.
Not a real estate lawyer.
No, I was going to say, because not all lawyers are created equal.
Exactly. Not a real estate lawyer, a commercial lawyer.
Yeah.
Make sure it's a lawyer that specializes in estates and trusts, so the language can be very specific for what you want to happen.
And then what would you set up then for a child who's disabled? Or because there's also a Henson Trust, tell me a little bit about the differences.
So Henson Trusts are very specific. A Henson Trust allows for any individual who receives any ODSP or any government subsidies to be maintained in their lifetime without compromising the trust. And for a trustee of a Henson Trust, they have to be very careful not to contradict any of those benefits that disallows for ODSP or any other benefits. And again, it's a national trust. It's across Canada and every other province that has disability benefits allowed. Henson Trust protects an individual from maintaining those benefits. You know, when we look at Henson Trust, a lot of people say, well, they can probably live off better than the income of the trust. But we try to say to someone, They may be able to live off better than the income of the trust. However, look at everything that is being given up, like all of the ODSPs, the medical, the everything that ODSP provides. They'll be better off being on the ODSP until age 65 when they can fully realize the assets of the trust for them to have. So it's really for disabilities and ensuring that that person has what they need to survive and ensure that those benefits are maintained.
And what are some of the mistakes that you've seen happen over your career with the incorrect writing of the wills or the wrong clauses? So what are some of the mistakes?
Well, one of the biggest ones I see is the collapsing of the trust, because there may be a language there that allows a beneficiary, we call it encroaching on capital, and because that encroaching on capital clause is so vague that it turns out that they can encroach the whole value of the trust and lose the complete trust. There's also, we call it vesting to be divested, where the trust funds will be payable to the estate of the individual, the beneficiary. So it again is the vague writing in the language of the trust, where as a trustee you have to seek the court direction to say, is this what it means? This is how I am interpreting what this means. Is it how it's been interpreted? As a trust company and as a professional trustee, what I've seen is the variance through court. When the challenge is there and they get a court decision, can they vary the terms of this trust to collapse it? So in that drafting, again, be specific in the wording that you want to happen and not want to happen. Like if I look at trust for some parents, like a parent who set up a trust for a child, is specific. At age 21, my child shall receive this trust fully. And there's some language I've seen that at age 21, if my child is doing X, Y, and Z, they shall receive this trust. Again, there's ambiguous there.
Right.
Like I had one beneficiary came to me and said, well, I'm traveling the world. That's education. I'm being educated.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what's the definition of education?
What's the definition of that term? What does it mean? So it's been specific in terms of what do you want to happen? When do you want it to happen? While you're alive and you're trustees on this trust, you can make these decisions, but once you pass away and that role comes someone else's, your intentions are now watered down. So what was your intention when you set it up the way you set it up?
So when you set it up when you're alive, you're sitting talking to the lawyer and you're getting it set up properly. Because if you're going to go to the trouble of setting it up, and the cost, and the cost, you definitely want to make sure it's going to stand the test of time.
Exactly.
So do you do the same thing then when you put it in your will?
Correct. You do the same thing. The same due diligence, the same time and effort should be done, either whether you set it up in your lifetime or when you set it up under your will. And especially when you set up in your lifetime, you need to get that accountant also. Make sure you get the tax advice you need. Because once you set that up and those assets move, is their deemed disposition being realized? What happens now to these assets that move from myself to an individual? Can I take that? Do I need to put it in layers, or do I just put everything in that now? So always engage professional advice when you set up a trust, because it has to make sense financially also when you're putting that up, when you set it up.
Yeah, that's really good advice, because a lot of times, and I've seen this happen where you just do it because you think it's a good idea, but you really didn't think it through. And it's difficult to unwind things once they've been, as you said, papered or set out properly. Now, have you seen, I had actually a client came to me one time, showed me, I was looking at their trust documents, and they hadn't told their family what was happening. So do you run across that very often?
Too often.
Yeah.
That's why I always emphasize the family meetings, especially when you're no longer able to be the calm within that family, right? Family dynamics plays a big deal in any kind of administration, whether it be trust administration or estate administration, because grief and money, they really don't make a good combination. They really don't. So if a client walks into me and says, I'm not going to tell my family, I look at them and question, why not? Is there something else that is needed here why your family members can't know about it? And maybe there's another solution. Maybe there's something else that needs to come into play that I can now share this with my family.
And it's funny you say that, because I said to this woman, because she didn't want to have the conversation with her daughter, because her daughter was a spendthrift, and she'd burned through a lot of money for different adventures she was trying, business ventures, all kinds of adventures. And I said that I really think it's a good idea that you explain why you're doing what you're doing. And so it wasn't a family meeting, but I did bring the mom and the daughter in to go through it, because I thought, boy, oh boy, this isn't going to be good. If the daughter finds out after the mother passes that she's now, all her assets went into a trust, and there were significant assets, and realizing that she didn't get her hands on the full amount, that it was a sort of an income type. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. Any other sort of mistakes that you see happen? So not really getting the proper wording to make sure that it's going to, the trust will perform the way you want it to perform. What else?
Not having the proper trustee succession in place.
Interesting.
What happens after this trustee? And do you just want one trustee? Do you want one? Do you want three at all times? Do you want one of your trustees to be a professional trustee? So engaging the trustees, and the trustees should know about this duty, because you know what's going to happen. Oh, you're now trustee. Oh, I don't want to do that.
So do you think that people understand the difference between a trustee for a trust and an executor or beneficiary on a will?
No. No, absolutely not.
Because everybody wants to put all their children equally.
Yeah. Oh, my favorite saying is, fair is not always equal, and equal is not always fair.
Absolutely. And they go, what?
Yes. Yeah, because being a mother myself, I know I benefited my daughter more than I benefited my son. Please don't watch just my son and my daughter, because they have different needs, right? There's different expectations. And some people think being a trustee is an honor and a privilege.
I know.
Oh my goodness, don't ever put me in that position. I never want to do it.
No. Well, there's a lot, we could go into a whole conversation about whether roles and responsibilities of an executor or trustee, and how complicated it is, and how you're can potentially set yourself up for some liability issues, right?
A lot of liability, a lot of cost, a lot of pain, a lot of grief, a lot of thankless nights. It's a lot of work.
I do recommend that most of my clients get a professional trustee, because it's neutral.
Yeah, completely neutral.
But I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that in another episode, because I think it's really important to talk about, what is professional management. So you've set up your trust. You are alive. You set up your trust. What is sort of the ongoing maintenance that's required in a trust, or is there any ongoing maintenance?
The one primary is the tax returns. Trust must file an independent tax return. So ensuring that trust return is filed every year to keep it, I call it, keep it sweet with CRA. Yes. And if there are assets within that trust when it's established, looking at the investments, does it make sense? Do I need to invest? Is it generating enough income for the beneficiary, or is it just holding private shares? So looking at the investments to make sure, as a trustee, you have to make sure that the investments are always where they should be. So investment reviews, tax returns being filed, and ensuring that if there's a trust that is being paid out, making sure that it's paid out correct, because what happens after 21 years, that's a whole new consideration also.
Right. And there's different options around that,
correct.
Which is a whole other podcast.
That's a 20-hour podcast.
Yeah. So I did say my last question. So my second last question is cottages.
Oh, the nightmares.
And setting up a trust setting up a trust for that family cottage. Where do you see that? I think, honestly, leaving a cottage to 4 siblings is a bit of a nightmare. Having them in a trust, do you think that's a better idea?
Oh, it all depends again. Trust is never black and white, right? Leaving a cottage in a trust, from my experience, can go left completely very easily. I've seen examples where it goes right because there was consideration at the beginning. The family members all knew what was supposed to happen within the trust and what within the cottage. There is no right or wrong answer. It all depends on the family dynamics and how you choose to leave that in trust. But remember, if you leave a property in trust, like a cottage, ensure who pays the expense of that cottage.
Leave money in the trust to cover the
exactly.
expenses. Yeah,
how
for
is
sure.
it maintained? How is rights of that cottage enforced? Who stays when and where and what? How is that decided? So it should be as crystal clear as it can be. But even with crystal clear, people get married, new family members come in, and things may change along the way. So
family meeting,
clear expectations. That's the only thing I can see that works with a family trust that has a cottage property. Even if the trust doesn't pay the expense, allocate who pays the expenses within the trust. Who uses it, pay proportionately to whoever.
That's a good idea.
To manage the cottage.
Yeah, I've got a case right now where there's 4 siblings in the family cottage. 2 want it, 2 don't, and the ones who want it don't necessarily have the resources to buy out the other 2, which causes a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's very interesting. But anyway, I can't believe we actually are out of time. So I do like to end every podcast with 3 pieces of advice. I know you've said many of them now, but can you narrow it down and give 3 pieces of advice, on demystifying trust?
Get professional advice. Understand how you want the trust to be, the terms of the trust, and have your family meeting to say why you want a trust to be established, whether when you're alive or the best way.
Love it. Well, thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure. This was fun.
If you like this episode, subscribe to the Business of Family podcast on your favorite listening platform. You can also find Blue Roots on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. On the next show, I'll be back with another amazing guest who will inspire you with their family business insights. Until then, take care and keep it in the family. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, tax, investment, or insurance advice. Before acting on any advice, please contact your personal or company advisors.